Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you're doing well. My system is currently not set up correctly, but big surprise, I've been sitting here for quite a while and haven't gotten it all sorted. I'm waiting for my monitor to show up. Let's just see what I sound like. I see audio levels here. I see audio levels here. And I can hear myself, so that's good news. Let's wait for the music to die down. And I don't know why Blue Cross thinks texting me is a great idea, because it's not. I don't talk to my healthcare provider via text, so oh well. It's all trying to be companies trying to be hip with the young crew, I guess. I don't know what to say about that. All right, let me fix what I need to fix here. I'm having a great morning, everybody. I've already cut the grass this morning. I woke up a little bit later than normal, and my wife was kind of getting the house ready. My daughter's going to have a friend over, And so I came out and I said, hey, how can I help get ready? She's like, well, remember yesterday you're going to cut the grass? And I was like, oh, crap. Yes, I do. Yes, I do remember that. So I hopped on my zero-turn mower, which I love driving, and turned the key, and nothing happened. So I was like, well, I know it needs gas. I went and bought gas just for that reason. So I know it needs gas. So I hopped off, filled it with gas. And then I realized, the starter's not even turning, which means that there's no electricity, which means I'm going to have to jump this thing somehow if I'm going to cut the grass this morning, and then investigate what's going on with the battery maybe a little later. So I thankfully have one of those little trickle 1.5 amp, what are they called, battery tenders. And I had purchased a while ago the little ends that you can just leave on the motor. So I had attached those long ago, thinking during the winter, I'll just put the battery tender on it, and that will keep cycles happening on the battery and keep it kind of alive long term. Well, I've only had the mower for 1 year, or 1 year, 1.5 years. I can't remember when I got it, but I bought it not too long ago, and because I didn't have grass, to be honest with you. This new house, they put down seed and they put down straw mats, and a bunch of weeds came up. So we watered and we tried to get grass to grow, but it didn't work. So it's been kind of a long haul to get anything green out there. So all of my weeds this morning are at a nice 4 inches high. The lawn is, if you step back, if you look from up here in the bonus room, the lawn is green. It's different colors of green, but it's green, which is a trick that I learned from a shopping mall that I used to help. So I was in a lawn fertilizing company long ago, back in the early 2010s, and the guy said, I said, do they want me to put down like weed control? What do they want me to do? They said, no, don't kill the weeds. All they care about is that the grass is green, that the grass area is green. They don't care what type of green it is. So don't kill the weeds, because it's mostly weeds. And I was like, oh, all right. So I forget what I was doing at that site. If we were, they were doing trees. They were, they did these like tree injections, which are it's kind of cool, but it's up in the air whether or not tree injections actually work. At least it was back in like 2011. So there you go. There's a little blast from my past. So my lawn is green, and it's all at a nice 4 inches. And you might think, geez, John, why do you cut it so high? It's because if I cut it any lower, you're going to see bald spots. Kind of like when guys comb over their hair when they're going bald. You're going to see the bald spot. If you cut it too short, it's going to have that horseshoe pattern. So same mentality. What an illustration to start off our Thursday morning discussion. Good times. Thanks for coming along, everybody. I see the usual suspects in the chat, and I appreciate it. Randy, of course, first to go this morning. Let's go. What is happening? I think he's excited to hear more about Home Assistant, because he says, I hear a lot about Home Assistant, but I haven't really started down that road yet personally, but I need to start. I'm starting from zero, just like I did with Companion. I started from, how do I install Companion? How do I make services work? What are modules? How do they work? How do you press and release the work, etc. But now I'm proficient in Companion. Well done. But it's it's an extremely steep learning curve, very difficult. And other people say it's easy, which I don't understand. I fear that Home Assistant will be another intense season of learning, and I'll wonder if it's worth it. Hey, things sound good. Excellent. Thank you, Randy. I like the fact that I think you're standing at a soundboard, so if Randy says it sounds good, I have some hope. Maybe he just did it for looks, but I have some hope that it actually sounds halfway decent, because people in this chat are generally involved in tech somehow. So what's going on, Bugsy? Good morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for stopping on by. Hey, so information this year from IC24 was AI and room management systems and LED tech. Interesting. I tried, after I chatted with you, to head back to Turtle AV booth to see your boss, but he wasn't there the times that I tried. Oh man, your efforts are very appreciated. Thank you so much for trying to find Eamon. Yes, Eamon Do you know there are people that I have worked for that like I went to a different job and they are I don't consider them like I would never call them boss again. You know what I mean? Like they were in charge, but they weren't the boss. Like they weren't the guys leading the charge. And then there's a handful of people that I've worked for that will always be my boss. Like and not in an official working capacity, but just in a reputation stance, in a sense of respect, right? Like they led the company and they were always good to me and they always heard me out and all that sort of stuff. And so those guys I always call boss. Usually I call them boss man. So it's if I see Eamon, or I type to Eamon usually on LinkedIn, it's hey boss man. There's a guy I worked for back in 2013 to 2019. Wow, I worked there 6 years. I worked at a school, 2 guys I worked for, and they were really good bosses to me. And so they're always, and it was really at the beginning of my serious tech career. Like I worked as a student worker in college, and I enjoy tech, and I've been on tech teams and whatever. But like when I really started going and pursuing it as a career, and I'll say making money, but the first couple of jobs I didn't make very much. Not because maybe it was because I was inexperienced, but also because the places I worked for didn't have money to pay. So, you get what you get. Anyway, those first couple of guys that I worked for at that university, it was a college back then. What's the difference? We don't know. But the first couple of guys that I worked for, they're always boss man. And I actually had a phone conversation with one of them this week. Unfortunately, we're at the stage of our lives. He actually ended up. Man, okay. Well, anyway, we're at the stage of our lives where we see each other at weddings and funerals, and we're getting enough gray hair where we see each other more at funerals than we do at weddings. So sometimes, like his kids are getting into the realm of where there might be weddings, so we may run into each other there. But other than that, we have phone conversations, and usually it's when somebody in our circle passes away. So, anyways, I had a phone conversation with him this past week, and still same. Like I was just then after I talked to him, I was just thinking of like all of the things that I learned about tech that he taught me while doing them with me. Like he was never like, go and do this. He was always like, hey, get your toolkit. We got to go and do this thing. And him and I would go and do it. Man, it shaped the way I ended up becoming a leader in those situations, right? Like leading tech crews or leading at Bird Dog or leading even here at the soundstage. Like that like get in there with your guys and do it mentality was like permeated. I did that a lot at Bird Dog where guys would be like, I would see how wide their eyes, and gals, Jessica was there too, and I would see me like explaining like, all right, this is how this works, and this is what you got to do on the session, and I would just see their eyes kind of like get wide, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And so I'd say, so what we're going to do is we're going to remote in together. Maybe you want to come in my office, or you can join the session from your office, and you'll just watch me do it. And man, I did that over and over and over and over. And people would be like, oh, you're enabling them to not have to work. It's like, no, I'm trying to build their confidence in a complicated situation to feel confident. And then after like 4 or 5 times, then I would switch and say, hey, you're going to lead the charge. I will talk to the customer, right? But you're going to click the buttons, and I'm going to walk you through. You've seen me do it a bunch of times, but I'll be right there to help you out if it goes sideways, okay? So you kind of do it gently, and that's exactly the way that this guy did with me. His name is Mark. He did with me back in my early years working at a college. Somebody's at the door. My daughter's friend. So it was a great way to learn, and I think it made it was a great way for me to learn, and so it made such an impression that like that's the way that I lead teams. And we talked about leadership last week, but yeah, there you go. You have to crawl before you can walk, and you have to walk before you can run. So that's how that works. Bugsy says, "Oh, IC26. My bad. No worries, no worries." One thing that I found in the play section was a company called CordTie. really cool item to get. Cord tie. It sounds like a cable management stuff. Cord tie. Let's just Google that while we... Cordtie.com. Ooh. That's kind of cool. That's pretty neat. Why? Why say it when you can play it? Come on, John. Get your act together. Slacking. Come on now.
That's pretty neat.
That is pretty neat. Thank you. All right. Sorry, everybody. I'll get this show underway one of these days, right? I'll get everything kind of squared away. Okay, so cord tie is a reusable utility strap. I'm hoping I'm looking at the right thing, Bugsy. But, whoops, that's not right. Sorry, everyone. Again, I'll get my act together one of these days. Desktop. This is the one that I want to share with you. Okay, because I had to cover up vMix. All right, so cord tie looks like this. It's a reusable utility strap. Bugsy says it's worth taking a look and getting a few of these if you are in the realm. I am definitely needing some cable ties. They're about $5 a pop for the big ones, and they are 16-pack. Holy smokes, for the small ones for $25. So that seems like a reasonable investment to do something like that. But there's some boy, imagine running a whole company on cable ties. Okay, here we go. Right where you need it, so you zip it to your cable, and then turns a mess into ready-to-use gear. Hey, aren't we all in that realm, right? I'm thinking XLR cables, and oh man, I'm so glad that you can only see this frame because everything else off screen right now is a bit chaos. So I need some cable ties, maybe. I do love me a solid Velcro tie, which I have a stack of them. Well, I thought I had a stack of them. I have a stack of them here somewhere, but I have those things on the end of every cable, and so whenever I'm done with a cable, I try and wrap it up and keep it tidy. It also helps, by the way, when you're tossing them in the bin, not the trash bin, when you're tossing them in your Pelican case for carry, they don't get all tangled up. They all stay nice and tidy. And bonus points if you use two. So you use one at the end, and you have the two ends of the cable come together, but then you tie another one down here, and that just keeps everything. It's great for like backpacking, if you're going into the woods, if you're going in an airplane. Double zip or double Velcro tie, hey, it's worth it. This is really neat. That's cool. You can create your secure connections with these. That certainly it's not lit up right now, but it's yellow, so it's nice and obvious. So it's more than just cable management, everybody. That's
pretty neat.
That is pretty neat.
How neat is that?
Check out Black Magic booth. They had some. I'll come back here now. There we go. I checked out the Black Magic booth. They had some cool audio tools and video gear, so that was something. Probably not a whole lot. They made a big splash at NAB, so they're probably reiterating all of those changes. It's made in the U.S. right here in Ohio. Is that what you're saying? And you can get them in black. You know, black is great for displaying your cords. Yellow is great for storing and identifying cords. So they've thought it through, I think. I do, you watch, then you do, and I watch. Okay, so NetHav has also apparently had a teacher, or is a teacher, that believes in this mentality that if you are going to train people, do it with them. And then once you've done it with them once or twice or three times, or it actually depends on the employee, by the way. Okay? It depends on the employee, and sometimes you get into it and then they get overwhelmed again. So then you have to kind of debrief a little bit and be like, all right, well, like in the end, the solution was whatever it was. You know, you got to remote in and do the firmware update by a USB stick. How many times I said that? No more though, right? That's in the past. So sometimes you got to walk people through it once or more, and then you got to walk them through it. And that is time consuming, but you are equipping them with, first of all, the confidence that they can do it, and then you build off of that. So then you do it once, and then they do it, and then you have the foundation of, no, you can do this. You do the first thing. So let's do the next thing. Let's, instead of 101, let's do 102. This step is, this is the same, but this piece is a little more complicated. And you just step it up. Well, that's the building of a proficient employee. Okay, that's how that works. And it takes a lot of time. You're not going to hire people who are experts in the thing you need them to do. You're going to need to make them into the experts into the thing that you need them to do. That's just how that goes. So welcome to management. But hey, like I said last week, when you spend the time and you lead your team and you build their skills to be as good or better than what your skills are in that thing, when they become proficient, they become experts in it, that person, first of all, is incredibly valuable to your team, but you have given them skills that they can capitalize on. They can use. They can benefit others with those things. They can benefit themselves. They can contribute to their community. They can make a better wage for their family, for their wife and their kids. They can, or husband, whatever, whoever this is, and they can contribute to the community. They can make the community thing better. Maybe they make the live stream way more watchable. Maybe people want to stay tuned in longer because of the skills that you built with that person, and they're adding it to the thing. Like, giving somebody a skill is not just teaching them to do one thing. It's setting up a cascading effect of growing this person into a contributing person in the company, in the community, in their own family, all of those things. And it may not feel like it at the time, but like, step back 10,000 feet, you'll see it. I might have a discount in my IC26 email I keep getting from people where I went through. Anyways, I got to get going, more tech work on site to do. Bugsy, always a pleasure. Thank you for stopping by and letting me know about this. I'm going to check this out and see what I can find out. And maybe probably won't do a whole show on it, but because they're cable ties, but we will definitely bring them up again. And thank you so much for letting me know about it, because I would not have known about it otherwise. And that's why we get together, folks. We get together to chat and tell me what's going on in your life, and I'll tell you what I think is interesting, and you can hang around for that part if you want. That's just the way this works. Okay. All right. Well, let's get after today's topic, mostly because I have run into this in the past couple of weeks, and I ran into it by accident. In my smart house, I started back long ago in the early 2010s. All right, so I got married in the late 2000s, and then I started doing SmartThings when I bought my first house, and that would have been 2013. And 2013, man, I hear about the troubles that people have now buying houses and getting into the market and stuff. I got so lucky. My wife and I got so lucky because we bought a bit of a fixer-upper. We made it into a livable place, and we fixed her upper, and then we sold it for a fair bit more than what we bought it for, and that propelled us into the next house, which was way more house than we ever thought. It was actually bigger than this house. That was a Clarkston house where I started the Bird Dog show. And then from that house, we moved to Tennessee. And so, and I'm in Tennessee's not cheap, so I'm in a different stratosphere. But in terms of like where I started back in the early 2010s and where I am now, just a mere 15 years later. So, pretty wild ride, if I say so myself, and if you were to ask me, is what I was going to say. And something that I ran into when I first bought a house was the annoyance of making sure all of the light switches, which in the fixer-upper were in all sorts of places, the annoyance of making sure I walk around, turn it all off. I had multiple mornings. I was turning into a dad before I was a dad. I walk into spaces that we hadn't been in like, I don't know, a few days, and the lights are all on. And I must have gone in there and turned them on and then walked out and didn't turn them off. And my parents did a great job in teaching me not to waste electricity, but man, I was bad at it. And so I started thinking like, what could I do? And I ran into a company called SmartThings. And SmartThings was not owned by Samsung back then. They had their own little hub. And for $100, you could get the hub and get some Z-Wave light switches and a few sensors. And I thought, this is pretty cool. I'm going to know when my front door or back door, I had two back doors out there, one that went out to our backyard and another one that used to be a garage that was converted into another room, and anyway, a couple of other doors, entryways into the house. And so I bought open close sensors from SmartThings, which were a little pricey at the time. They were like $30 or $40 each. But I linked them up to SmartThings, and I had, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen to a dozen devices connected to this hub that was in the living room. And it was really cool because I could see the state of things. I started buying more and more light switches. I replaced the light switches right away. I learned very quickly that smart light switches, Z-Wave, Zigbees, they need a white neutral, whereas traditional housing didn't have neutrals in their wiring. And so if you buy an old house, you're not going to have neutral wires. Anything past like the 90s, actually, you're probably not going to have neutral wires. But new electrical code in the United States, at least, requires, and I think North America in general, requires a neutral wire to be in the box of all light switches, because new light switches that are smart, Wi-Fi enabled, yada, 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 all require neutrals. And so white wires, for those of you who aren't really up with the electrical stuff. So you need a black wire and at least one true neutral wire, and then a ground to go to the light switches. And people used to use 14.2 wire, which is black, white, ground, okay, and a traditional home wire for lights and plugs. And they would run it to the box for the light switch, but they would go to the light first and then come to the box second. And then they would put the power on black, and then they would put the switched power on white, and they would just sometimes label it and go back to the light and go through the light and then back, neutral back to the box, to the electrical panel. This meant that you really only needed one wire in the light switch box to turn on the light. And traditional lighting, those standard little switches that are like super thin and tiny, and that's all we ever needed back in the day. They were not smart at all. They were just on off. Those light switches you could get away with 14.2. Now, it wasn't, I don't think it was electrical code, and this is not electrical advice in any way. I'm not licensed. I'm not supposed to be giving that information. This is just what I've discovered. Now, when I bought that house, there were many potential electrical fires about to happen in the attic, because the attic was blown in insulation, all the boxes were open, and it was all really old wiring, like really old wiring. And so my dad took one look at that, and he is kind of an electrical hobbyist. He really is fascinated with, circuits and current and everything, and he's totally he upgraded our house out in the country, the one that I grew up in, before he left. It went from the glass fuses all to breakers, and he had everything beautifully laid out and pulled all new lines and everything. He had redone all of that, and so he took one look at my attic, which was like a crawling attic, and it was 1,000 degrees up there. And he's like, "John, we've got to fix this." Well, he came to visit when my first child was born, and he spent time up in that attic while I was at work rewiring most of it. And it was beautiful when it was done, but man, I'm sure it was 1,000 degrees up there, and wasn't great for his health because that insulation was full of fiberglass. Anyway, so we have gone down a rabbit hole, which we will come back just a moment. But anyway, so I installed SmartThings, and then things progress. You kind of budget maybe in the house budget, or maybe a tax return or something like that. Hey, we're going to upgrade this room to be Z-Wave enabled. I'm going to upgrade this room. And we kind of slowly integrate. Well, that has evolved into SmartThings. Now, SmartThings discontinued their original hub, their Gen 1 hub, which was a great little unit, but they stopped doing firmware updates for it because it was pretty limiting. And so I got an email one day from SmartThings, which was purchased then by Samsung, and said, hey, we're discontinuing that hub. You'll need to either buy a new SmartThings hub or one of these compatible ones. And there's a handful of them on the market that'll do that. So I ended up going to an AOTech, I think that's how you say it, AOTech hub, and resyncing everything to that. Then we moved to Clarkston. So I pulled all of the Z-Wave stuff out of the house, put in dumb switches, and then took all that stuff to the Clarkston house. In the Clarkston house, then, I spent 2 weeks putting everything where it was supposed to be, putting it all back, realigning sensors, rejoining thankfully, like, you plug the actual hub in and it recognizes things as they come back, and you can relabel them, put them in the proper rooms. It's a lot of work, but moving is a lot of work. And so that mentality was, well, it's going to be a lot of work, but it was several thousands of dollars worth of equipment at that point, so I wasn't just going to leave it all for the next owner to not use. I'm sure they wouldn't. So we pulled all that out, put that in Clarkston House, and then, of course, this is probably along the time where you ran into me when I was at Clarkston doing bird dog stuff, and then we moved from there to Tennessee. And I still have that same AOTech. They still support that hub. And the next piece of the home automation stuff started like trickling in. Now, I've done a show on this, that I was using Logitech Harmony hubs for my theater automation. And I was using one hub in Clarkston, and I drilled a hole through the floor to go between one theater and another. I had one in the finished basement and one upstairs theater. Let's say movie viewing place, because it wasn't like an official theater. It wasn't padded. It wasn't like all this stuff. It was just where I had all my equipment. So I had one Harmony hub that could handle both systems. Well, when we moved into a new build, which had 0 low voltage for some reason. They only had coax, which I guess is low voltage. But we've struggled together and figured out a way to get things all hardwired, except for the Harmony hub. That thing, I had to basically decide, where am I going to watch TV the most? In the bonus room. Come to find out, it's the bonus room. And where am I more likely to need the ability to kind of power on the entire system? So the more complex system is up here, but the better TV is downstairs. I don't know why that is. I could put this TV downstairs and that TV up here, but that TV is in the public space, and this room is kind of more of a closed room. So we don't bring people up here to watch stuff. If we're going to watch something, we're going to watch it down there. So that's the 4K TV. But that TV then is not on the home automation, right? It was Harmony Hub, and I was able to like open the app and do it through there, and that worked fine. Kind of. It was a little clunky, but it worked fine. Well, then, we went through that episode earlier this year, shortly after NAB, about getting a Broadlink unit and buying it, setting it, unboxing it, setting it up, plugging it all in, linking it up, reboxing it, packaging it, and sending it back. And then I did that because a friend of a guy now who's actually moving on to bigger and better things, a guy that I was working with through my little side company, because of my side company, he recommended that I check out Global Cache, which was an off-the-cuff recommendation, which has like revolutionized my control of my theater system. And so I doubt he'll ever watch this show, but shout out to Riley. That was an amazing recommendation, and he just did that like, oh yeah, you should check this out. And then he went back to work, and I was like, burr? So I looked into it, and I was like, tell me a little bit more. And he's like, yeah, they're just IR blasters and like this and this, and they're network enabled. I did a whole show on it. They're called Global Cache, and my whole system is now switched over to, my whole theater system is switched over to that because it's IR control. It can learn remote controls, and that has changed a lot because, and here's where we come to the conversation about Home Bridge and Home Assistant. Because I'm looking for things to unify control in the house, right? The biggest, the one of the pieces that you have to address is it's great to have all of these things available on your phone. I can look at every device that I've purchased for Z-Wave or Zigbee or home automation, and I can see them on my phone. But now the question is, I've got 4 or 5 different services that are doing individual things perfectly. How do I get them all to talk the same? And so the answer is in a Raspberry Pi, in a Linux piece of software, one called Companion and one called Home Assistant. Now, before I went down this road, I thought, I kind of like was scouring the internet and was figuring out, okay, how do I get my smart house, my SmartThings units, and it's not even SmartThings anymore. It's SmartThings software imposed on all these things that are not SmartThings. How do I get that smart house to talk to my phone, which is an Apple iPhone, old Apple iPhone? Oddly enough, I buy a lot of technology, but I don't update my phone. I can't. It works. Like, what do I need? I just shot a video. Not a film. A film. I didn't shoot a film. I shot like a little commercial for our soundstage. 2.5 minutes on my phone yesterday. Quality's great. It's an iPhone 13. Like, it's not new. What do they have now? 17s? 18s? Anyway, yeah, it's a weird thing about that. Anyways, I had all these apps that talk to my phone. Now I need this unifying piece that will talk to my iPhone, and maybe I can control all of those apps. So I didn't buy. Well, technically, okay. Sorry, my brain just like fired in 6 different ways. I did buy a Raspberry Pi 4 and 4B Plus. That's important. The 4B Plus has a little bit of extra processing power on it. And so if you're going to use any of these recommendations, start with the Raspberry Pi 4B Plus. They've come down a little bit in price, but then they're kind of fluctuating because of the whole memory chip stuff, like war that's going on. So you can get them for about $100. I bought a little Raspberry Pi 4B Plus, and I have SD cards, so I already had that. And I bought a little case for it, but then I got rid of the case. I actually sent them back because I bought a rack mount unit for Raspberry Pis, and it's pretty awesome. And I bought a PoE hat for the Raspberry Pi, and it is literally as simple as putting it on the pins and screwing it in. That's it. That's the whole install process. There's no enabling it on the board or anything like that because the DC pins are on the board on the Raspberry Pi board. So if you buy a PoE hat and you supply it just PoE, not plus, just 15 watts, it will turn on. So I have a dumb unmanaged switch that's PoE. Click, plug it in, Raspberry Pi comes on. Amazing. So then you take your SD card and you open Raspberry Pi Imager, and you can put Raspberry Pi 4B Plus, 64-bit on it. Enable SSH in the options before you install. Format the SD card with this new software. It takes 10 minutes on a decent computer. Plug it into the Raspberry Pi. Plug in the Raspberry Pi to your PoE switch. It powers on, and up comes Linux or Ubuntu. You don't need the user interface for this process. You can SSH into it because you enable that in the options. And because we don't use unmanaged stupid networks, we have real networks in our lives, we can find the IP address fairly intuitively with the web interface from our router. So we need to SSH into it using PuTTY terminal. If these concepts or whatever are foreign to you, I can do a show on this. Just put it in the chat. Hey, I don't know any of this that you're talking about. But you SSH into it using terminal. Get into the Raspberry Pi interface that way. And then go to AI and say, give me the commands to install BitFocus Companion Linux version on a Raspberry Pi 4B Plus. And it will spell it out for you. And you just copy and paste those lines and put them in there and let it run. Once that's done, then you go to a website, okay, and let it reboot everything it needs to do. You may want to power cycle it just for a clean start. And you can do that with a PoE port, right? You could turn off the PoE port and turn it back on if you want. Then go to the website IP address. So you go Open Chrome or Open Brave or whatever you're using. Put in your IP address for your Raspberry Pi, and up pops a very familiar BitFocus Companion website. So this is what mine looks like. Let me get it here. Sorry, I should have had this prepped. Here we go. So you're going to recognize this right away. It is literally BitFocus Companion as you know it. And this is it looks like you're it looks like the same when you install BitFocus on your computer. and you say launch UI, and it looks like this. It's the exact same thing. This version of BitFocus, this one, is running on a Raspberry Pi, and that is its job. That's the Pi's job. You think, man, $100 for BitFocus? Yeah, I could have probably put this on something else as well, on a Pi that's doing something else. But I like one machine to do one thing, right? So that's what we've got going on here. So this is running Companion. This Raspberry Pi 4 PoE is running Companion, and it's its only job. It's just to take commands from my interfaces that I want to use. Now, the thing about having BitFocus running on your network is that you are probably going to be using web interfaces to manage your commands. You can buy network-enabled modules, which then you can enable here. You can search for them, right? And say like refresh module list, and it will find what surfaces are available. But I don't have any of those available for this guy. And traditionally with a Stream Deck, you would plug the USB into the device. Well, then you're kind of limited to the cable. Stream Deck has recently come out with a PoE Ethernet jack for Stream Decks that you can either add, or if you get the 1U strip buttons, the $800 unit, you could that one has the PoE unit on it and USB, but it has a PoE unit on there. So you can plug it in theoretically anywhere on the same network that this companion module is running, this Raspberry Pi is running, and then it should see it as a usable option. Now in BitFocus Companion, you have unlimited modules, as far as I understand. There's no like fee for additional modules. But in BitFocus Buttons, which is another segment that I have done on this channel, you can only use one module for free. Then you need to pay the annual subscription for additional modules, additional products to being connected. But you could connect a module to it if you wanted to, and let the Raspberry Pi, like mount the Raspberry Pi to the Stream Deck, right? And run the Stream Deck USB off of the Raspberry Pi, and then power the Raspberry Pi via PoE. That actually probably would work. There'd probably be enough power there that the PoE module could handle, because the Raspberry Pi is pulling down 3 watts, but it can do 15. So there you go. You could power the USB ports on the Raspberry Pi to power your Stream Deck if you want them all to sit together, and you could plug in PoE to that Raspberry Pi to power that whole unit. There you go. So there's an option, I think. That's the way my brain thinks it through, but who knows. Anyways, this looks just like Companion, doesn't it? I mean, it is. That's what this is. But you can then add your modules as you want. So whatever it is that your automation needs, you can add them here. Now you'll notice I have my global cache connected to this Raspberry Pi, to this Companion module. So both of them are here. These are global cache modules. And my Home Assistant, this one is off. I was going to do API commands with this, but I haven't gone down that road yet. So here we want to add Home Assistant and add our global cache, and that would give us then control if we were to, say, make an emulator that could control whatever's happening maybe in your room. So this is my emulator that I have on a website that I have just saved this website to my phone home screen. So I just go here. You're not going to be able to see this. Let me make this full screen for you. So I can just open this Face ID to confirm. But then it's just an emulator site, and this site is the same site for all screens. So what you see here is the same thing that you're going to see here. This is the same emulator. So there we go. Now, if I make a change on this screen, it changes on my phone, right? It's the same website. It's actually following, it's live. It's not one instance here and one instance there. They're the same. So now we can coordinate things that are happening with our system, our global cache system, which talks to Companion and Buttons. But also Home Assistant works this way, which means that now I have the ability to put whatever devices I want in my home on my phone. all on the same page that controls my entertainment system. So this is now turning into much more of a universal control, and I can give this access to my daughter's iPad. I can put it on my wife's phone. I can access it on a computer, any interface that can get to it. And it also means, which I haven't done yet, that I could buy like an Android tablet and mount it to a wall, so when we have guests come over, maybe a babysitter's going to watch the kids. I don't have any babies though. A sitter is going to watch the kids. They can control the smart house or the entertainment system or whatever right from a panel. They don't need to know what website to go to. All right. So Home Assistant then talks to Companion, which was the catalyst for my decision to move away from Home Bridge, which is a different product, to Home Assistant. Home Bridge allows you to enable the home control module on your iPhone. It's a little orange icon that if you open it, it's like, here are your smart devices. And for most of you, it'll be blank. In order to enable your SmartThings Z-Wave Home, okay, SmartThings in my case, but your Z-Wave Home with your iPhone, you need a bridge to be in between those to take commands from your device and send them to your smart home, and also expose your smart home nodes to your phone. So you need a home bridge. It is bridging the home app with SmartThings, okay? Home Bridge worked pretty well. It gave some pretty good stats. It gave readouts of what the Raspberry Pi was doing, temperature settings, and a few other things. Worked pretty well, but it really felt like it struggled with extracting the proper data from the smart device and providing it on the phone. So I got looking at, okay, I want to be able to control my smart home from Companion. How do I do that? That little bug, okay, filed away. Now, the second problem I had, SmartThings doesn't really do firmware updates. And I know, as a tech guy, there have got to be some firmware updates out there for some of these devices that are kind of misbehaving. I had purchased ages ago, and I showed this on the show, I think last week, I had a product called their inner wall plugs, INNR wall plugs. And these were Generation 1 wall plugs, so they were squares. The new ones are rectangles, and they seem to be a lot more consistent and better. So good for you, Inner, for fixing this. But the square ones always fell off my Z-Wave network. They would work for maybe a day, maybe a week, and then they would all of a sudden disconnect themselves. I went over to AI and I asked, hey, okay, what is going on with these Inner Gen 1 plugs? They keep falling off my Z-Wave network. Provide me with some solutions. And basically the first and only solution was, you're probably running old firmware and they need to be updated. And I was like, oh. So I went to SmartThings and I looked through my phone. I was like, firmware updates. And there's nothing in there. There's nothing in SmartThings that does a firmware update. And I was like, what? Like, certainly. They're like, well, go to this website and apply to this repository and add it to your SmartThings API. And I was like, whoa. I just need a button that says update firmware. Come on, man. Like, SmartThings does it, but doesn't really make it very accessible. You can do it, but it's not very accessible. Now, in this instance, there were no driver updates for these Gen 1 inner plugs through SmartThings. No repositories, nothing there that could update the firmware. And so I started thinking, all right, how could I do this? And it said, honestly, the easiest way is to use a program called Home Assistant. And Home Assistant, you have to enable it, you have to install it. It's on. I said, can I do this on a Raspberry Pi 4 Plus, 4B Plus? And I said, absolutely. That's actually the second best Raspberry Pi to use currently. The next one, obviously, the first one is Raspberry Pi 5, which is the latest, most expensive version. But 4B Plus would do just fine. So I thought, okay, I will try and check that out and see, what the options are. And the more I got looking into it, I just said, okay, so how do I update these? And said, well, you need to have these are Zigbee devices. You need to have a antenna that will plug into the Raspberry Pi to enable Zigbee signals. And I thought, all right. So I looked that up, and that was like $25 on Amazon for a brand name one. I thought, okay, well, it's a Sonoff or something like that. Anyways, reputable brand that I've seen all over the place. So I was like, all right, I'll order that. Came the next day, plugged that in. Then it said, okay, if the inner plugs are already falling off the network, just delete them out of your SmartThings and put them into inclusion mode and search for devices inside of Home Assistant. All right, I got a little ahead of myself. So my home bridge then program at Raspberry Pi, I turned that off. It also has a PoE hat on it, so I can just supply power to it right there on the rack. So I unplugged that, I took the SD card out of there, and I reformatted it with Raspberry Pi Imager to actually, inside the Imager program, there is a Home Assistant image. All right, so I'm going to look it up here. Raspberry Pi Imager looks like, yes, I know. Looks like this. Let me make this page presentable. Oh, and there's already an update for it. Okay, so it looks like this. And all you do is you take your SD card, you plug it into an SD card reader, and you plug that into your computer. It will show up as a storage option. So we want to pick our Raspberry Pi. This is a Raspberry Pi 4B model, okay? And then we want to choose our OS. So here, I wanted to go to Other OSs, and I want to, oh, I'm sorry. This is, I may actually have to update this thing, because there should be a whole lot more. Go ahead. There should be a bunch more. Let's download this real quick. Imager. Yeah, version 2. So, no, I'm going to just get that. Hang tight, everybody. We will. Hey, let's install this together. So, in order to get Raspberry Pi Imager ready, you need to have the latest one, which you can just get off of the Raspberry Pi website, which looks like this, raspberrypi.com/software. And then you download the version that you want. You can do this for Windows, Mac, or Linux. And then we're just going to install. It's going to ask you for some permissions to do that. And then it needs to install a few drivers. Let's go ahead and launch this. All right, this looks more familiar. This is the new version. I was like, man, this thing looks old. All right, so Raspberry Pi 4 is what I had. The OS that we want to use is going to be here in Other General, I believe, and then it's under Home Automation. So, no, not that one. Back. Raspberry Pi Other Specific Purposes. Let's try that one. Home Automation, yes. So, you're going to Other Specific Purposes, Home Automation, and right here is a Home Assistant one. We're going to select Home Assistant, and we're going to say, now there are several versions. I haven't looked into the yellow version of Home Assistant, but this is the one that you want for Raspberry Pi. Okay, and then you're going to select your storage drive, and it's pretty much that easy. This thing will reformat everything on the SD card, so be sure you got it all off of there before you use your SD card. And this SD card is going to live in the Raspberry Pi from now on, so you better not need it again. So I took my Homebridge SD card, formatted it for Home Assistant. It was kind of like making a leap, right? Because I had done some work to get it all to work. Installed Home Assistant. Put it into the Raspberry Pi, fired up the Raspberry Pi PoE, which is really nice, by the way, and went to the web UI for Home Assistant, and it populated right away. It was blank, but it populated right away. So this was the screen that I got. It had a little welcome thing here, whatever. And what I did was discover devices. It gave me a list of all the devices on the network that it already found. If you leave it for 10 minutes, it will find a bunch of other things. You can see Reolink. That's my camera system, which I need to do another video on. And I was able to install all of these things, all of these different modules. And you'll notice SmartThings has a module. And so I installed that and gave it about a half an hour. And it installed right away. But then I gave it about a half an hour, and it populated so much information from each of the devices. And let's just take a peek at the living room real quick. Check this out. It gave me, you have to go through and just obviously tell, hey, what's a light? Is this, the fan is automatically climate, but some of these things go down under switches, and they are light switches, but lights themselves, you can enable. Now, here's a great example of a light. It's classified as a light, but it's actually a switch. So how you would do that is you would open the device. If you click on the icon, it does the action. So if you click on it, it'll turn the light on. But if you click on the device itself, you can say settings, and then you can tell it that it's not a switch. So I believe, where is that? I need to change it. Device info. Boy, now I'm gonna look silly because this is actually a switch. I may have to Google how to do this. I can do it the other way, where I can tell here this is classified as a switch. And you can say this and say show as outlet, and you can change it as show as light, and then it would add it under the light category. I'm not too sure why I can't go here and say show as outlet, change it from light to outlet. Living room speaker variant outlet. This is maybe a plug, power plug, but it doesn't allow me to change it back. So I need to go in and figure out how to do that. Anyway, it started populating all this stuff really fast. And what was neat is I could connect my Ecobee thermostats, which I have a couple of them here, and I turned off all the automation for the thermostats in Ecobee, and now I just run everything out of Home Assistant because I have multiple temperature sensors, multiple meaning like 24 temperature sensors throughout my house in various levels of the house. And I kind of want Home Assistant to figure out, hey, it's cold at the thermostat, but it's 10 degrees warmer in the bonus room. The thermostat's on the other side of that wall, but it's cold in or it's warm in the bonus room because John's got all this heavy equipment inside there. So we need to keep the air conditioning running so that he's not sweating during his show. So it really was able to read all of the devices efficiently. Somebody has done a lot of work in getting the module for SmartThings to work accurately. And you have to go in and you have to generate an API key so that this isn't just exposed to the internet. You create a API key, and then you link the two services together that way, encrypted, and that works really well. It pulls all of the data. You'll notice here it says 151 devices on SmartThings, but 459 entities. An entity is a single touch point of data, meaning the temperature, the moisture, the open close sensor, the vibration sensor, all of the things that a sensor can do is one entity. Each of them is one entity. So, I have a few points of data throughout my house. Like the air compressor, for example, has 4 entities. This is just a plug. It's just a plug that turns on and off the air compressor so that I can tell my smart house, hey, turn on the air compressor, and it'll turn it on. I don't have to, the plug is underneath some stairs. I got to climb under there and press it. Well, now we don't have to do that anymore. All right. So back to the inner plug saga. So I attached the inner plugs then to this device. That's the first thing I did. Plugged in that Zigbee antenna, and then went to inclusion mode and started adding the devices. And what you can do with that is you can click up here, add a device, and then you can say Zigbee. You have to add the Zigbee home automation. And when you do this, it puts the Raspberry Pi in inclusion mode, starts looking for how to any devices that are also looking to be included. And then I realized I should probably update the firmware on these light switches as well that keep falling off the network. Well, there's Z-Wave. And so I was like, now I got to buy another antenna. So I had to overnight a Z-Wave antenna, not because I needed it this moment, but Amazon. So I just sent it. They sent it to me. Same company that with the Zigbee antenna, but they sent me this one, the Z-Wave one as well. They sent it. I bought it, and it was shipped to me, and then I was able to do this as well. So then you put your device in inclusion mode, whichever one you want. you put your home assistant in inclusion mode, and they popped up on the network. Actually, it found it way faster than SmartThings does, which I kind of thought was odd, but was happy about because they joined really fast. I have a here in the bonus room. Sorry. These RGB lights are on. Oh, you know what it was? So my VR towers. I have a VR headset, and I have VR towers that were constantly falling off. One of them was falling off the network all the time, and one of them I had to climb in behind to like manually turn it on. You automate these things so you don't have to turn them on. So you can just turn them on, or you can tell your smart house, hey, turn on the VR towers, and it does it. Well, one of them was on an inner plug and kept falling off the network. Well, we can check that out now because it is currently online. So, and I say that, here, moment of truth right here. VR towers, where are they? They're in the bonus room. This is bonus room, right? Yeah. The theater. Here we go. VR Tower 2. So this is the one that was falling off, and this is a Zigbee device. It's now reconnected to SmartThings because I added it to this network. It came up and told me that there was a firmware update, which I was very impressed with. I said, go ahead with the firmware update. It updated the firmware for me. I didn't have to jump through any hoops or anything. And then, more on that later, updated the firmware for me, rebooted the device, and then it showed up and was like online. Firmware's up to date, latest version. It even tells you what version firmware it's running. You know? So if there's a new version, you can literally click update, or there is a right here under disk maintenance. All good. It shouldn't be all good. I've got one of my blinds is dead, needs batteries. So under maintenance, it'll say like you have 6 items that need firmware update. You can click update all, and it will systematically go through and update them all. It's awesome. It's so cool. It's such a great way to do it. So I was very impressed with that out-of-the-box experience. And it kind of begs the question, why do I still use SmartThings? Well, I have about, 200 automations. Because, when the sun goes down, the lights come on. Or when the temperature rises too high, the fans come on. Or when the, whatever it is. When the ambient light gets too low in my son's room, the night light comes on, So all of that stuff is in SmartThings. But one of these days, and I think that day is coming soon, I'm going to probably get rid of SmartThings. Not because I don't love you, SmartThings, but because you're really no longer supported by Samsung. You're not making strides to make it better. You're hanging on to... I think your life is short if you're not doing something with the software. And so I think that they're not... I know Samsung's not supporting it. They haven't supported it in quite a while. And not everybody's getting into home automation. But, man, those of us who are in home automation, we went far. Like, we went really deep. We didn't buy 5 sensors. And that was the deal back then, right? Like, when I bought it in the early 2010s, it was like, buy a hub and get 3 temperature sensors with it. And it was like, oh, that's a savings of $90. So I'll pay $100 and get a $200 value, and then I'll buy a few switches. Well, little did I know that I was going to be buying thousands of dollars in switches and stuff over the years. But I kind of wonder, like some of the switches that stopped working, did they stop working because the firmware stopped working, or did they burn out? And I have a couple of those switches that I haven't thrown away yet. Because they stopped working, but they're downstairs, and I'm wondering, is it a firmware update? The one of the other things I'll say about this is I just threw away something that's very prudent. I just threw away an open close, one of the original SmartThings open close sensors that would do velocity and would do rotation. And so people would put them on their garage doors, and then when they would separate, right, it would open. But then when the garage door would turn and go along the ceiling, it would know that it's also in the open status. That I put fresh batteries in it. I tested it. I did a little electrical testing on it. The chip was totally dead. That chip has been functioning in various forms for 15 years, and it was kind of sad to throw it away. But also, I trying not. You would never know it by looking at my desk, but I try not to hold on to too many things, and so I said thank you for your service, and I disposed of it, which is what I expect my wife to do with my ashes when I die one day. That's morbid. Okay, let's jump into the chat, and then we will. I can walk you through a little bit more of Home Assistant and why I love it for so many reasons. Hi everybody, what's going on, Angus? Good to see you. Home Assistant is great. I've been running it for years. Hey, Angus, glad you could make it. NetHab's happy you're here, too. I ran a bunch of MQTT devices, as well as a bunch of Zigbee devices. Hey, me too. I had all my days mixed up. Thought this show was tomorrow. On this summer break, my wife just said yesterday, I'm having a hard time remembering what day it is. And I was like, I agree. I've seen a lot of people discussing ZHA versus Zigbee to MQTT. I went Z2M, and I have no regrets about it. Regrets. You wrote it right. I never tried SmartThings, though. Your bathroom window needs new batteries. Yes, it does. That was a good catch. I guess I left that up there for a little while. I don't know why maintenance says all good, because this window has... I don't know how it got more power. That's not how batteries work, everybody. This one has been complaining to me for the past 3 or 4 days. Let's talk about this real quick, because this is something I love. Okay, let's talk about the things I love about Home Assistant. I don't really have too many complaints yet. What I love is that it breaks up all of your devices into one place where you can see everything. Right? So if I want to click on climate, it gives me all the climate information throughout the property. Okay, this barn is the new barn. So that's my office space. My recording studio has a temperature and humidity sensor in there, which it's a little warm in there and a little humid as well. My goodness. 72% humidity, because I don't have any HVAC in there just yet. And then the attic above it is only 2 degrees warmer, and it's going to go up to like 100, and the humidity's better because the window fan is on, so it's pumping in at least fresh air from outside. So that's something. What I need to do is go out there and turn the fan on and open the windows and let the air circulate through that office space, but more on that later. But what I love is I can click on climate, and I can see everything that is going on in this space. So it's like the temperature is 86 degrees in the recording studio, and it's 88 degrees in the attic. And it shows me the last, I don't know, few hours, I guess. What is this? Yeah, midnight to 8. So the last 6 hours. Or maybe that's longer than 10 hours. It gives me a readout as to like how things have been going. And I don't have to go into the specific device to see it. I can just click on the climate tab and it will tell me everything, like all of the climate information. Same thing with like all the security stuff. So like what door's unlocked. Here's a new camera I installed in the back, and it shows a preview of what that looks like. Here's like the most recent activity for security. Which door has opened recently? Okay, the back door. The kids are outside playing. So front door is locked. Garage is locked. What door's unlocked? Big surprise, my office door. That will be changed here soon, but this door is now communicating correctly with the rest of the house, which, by the way, I'm wondering, is there a firmware update for this guy? Because Device info. Unlocked, unavailable. Battery is at 48%. I haven't dived into the diagnostics of this yet, but one of these days. Something as well that you may notice is, so there's not too much here. There may, however, be a module for the door locks. Let's go add integration. Yeah, Yale. Smart Living? Oh, no. Anyways, they're Yale locks, so I'll figure it out. But anyway, so one of the big things that I love is that you have all of the things all in one place. If you're lying in bed and you want to like figure out what lights are still on, oh, like here you go. You need to turn lights off. Like click, turn the light off, or click, turn all off. You know, easy peasy. Really simple place to see all of the data, and they break it out into obvious things, and you can edit that. You can edit this overview to include what you want. So like media players, if you have solar panels and you have a smart grid inside your house and that's plugged in, you can connect that service to here and then control your electrical grid stuff from a single interface. But you can select which items you want on and which ones you don't, and then you can also add favorite entities, remember, sensors, to the top of the page. And so you can say, what's the forecast for today? Well, the forecast eventually will be rainy. You know, my washer and dryer have run just recently. Well, it gives me this information. It actually tells me more information about the usage of that product just by clicking on it. So it's a great like centralization of a lot of data, because that was kind of one of the things with SmartThings is like when it gets bulky, then when you start really using a lot of the product, it gets kind of hard to navigate, and this fixes that. It's really nice. Something else, maintenance. You can click here and it'll say like you have 6 firmware updates. I've already said that, but you can see all the battery levels. That's like really important that you're able to see, because most of the time with SmartThings, it's just a mystery. It's like, oh, the device is offline. It's like, well, is the battery dead? Well, now you can see it. Like you can check it once a week and be like, oh, yeah, window bathroom blind only has 22%. So we need to check that out and see what's going on. Or replace it or charge those batteries or whatever, however it is that you do that. So really good, like really helpful stuff. And I like a lot the fact that we can simply see everything in one place. Now, then the question becomes, okay, with the SmartThing itself, it would be, I think, best, because to be honest with you, I don't really need to see all of these devices, but I do use the same devices fairly regularly. Like, for example, this room. I use these RGB lights quite often. Every time you see me on camera, those lights are on. I use that ceiling fan. It keeps the air moving in this office because it can get quite warm. Again, climate has been a lot better, but we can definitely manage it better. And one of the options inside of Home Assistant is to create your own interface. So now here you can customize and pick and choose what entities you want to see on a single screen. So the overview shows you everything broken down by room, mind you, super handy. But like maybe I want to see, like, make sure the garage doors are always closed. Or maybe I want to constantly see what the thermostats are saying, right? What their status is. Maybe I want to have a big unarm the house or arm the house or set off the alarm button. Well, you can make big giant buttons that do that. And then if you have a computer or a tablet attached to a wall, you can just have it always on this web UI. And there are ways to expose this web UI to without needing to be logged in, so that you can walk up to it and be like, oh, like time to go to bed, and you like use a touch screen and turn everything off. So that's what this is. This is the creation of that. I have, for example, sprinklers outside that the heat is brutal. So sometimes I want to see, are they running? Are they not? Well, if this was on a screen in my house, on a big TV or something, I could just walk up to it and be like, yep, lawn sprinklers are running, or the garden sprinklers are running, or the garage door is open, or whatever. If it's a touch screen, then you can turn on and off these items just by touching them. Or maybe I'm getting ready to walk outside. I can just slide the barn door button open, and it will open the barn door for me. You can really get quite deep into how this works. And this interface, for example, if you kept it to just a few simple buttons, you could use it on a phone, or maybe a few extra, and you could use it on your iPad, and just had a quick way to click the iPad, like a home screen icon. It takes you right to this page, and you do the automation. So Home Assistant then exposes all of these different pieces and entities, but also allows you to heavily integrate with other devices. And so when you say, what can I add? You can say manage your devices. You can say add integration. And then look at all this. Dude, there's so many integrations that you can use, and you're going to have to probably look at yourself, because there's no way that I can show all of these, but there's tons of it in here. For example, I know Mr. Cool has I'm gonna have to find out. I'm buying. Let's ask the interwebs here. Can the Mr. Cool app integrate with Home? Whoops, that's not how you spell home. Home Assistant. Let's see what it says. I know that it will integrate with SmartThings, so maybe that's how we keep SmartThings alive. No, Mr. Cool app, which is Smart HVAC or the Mr. Cool link, does not have a native or official integration with Home Assistant. The Wi-Fi enabled mini splits, especially the DIY models, rely on cloud services often powered by compatible with CeeLo and lack the direct HA component for their official app and API. Popular workarounds: third-party devices, ESP Home, most common for local control. Does Mr. Cool integrate with SmartThings? I know they have an app. Yes, Mr. Cool does integrate with SmartThings, but indirectly, not via the dedicated Mr. Cool integration. But it's Wi-Fi enabled, because I feel like if it's Wi-Fi enabled, then we should be able to find it, right? Anyway, there are lots and lots and lots of apps that can integrate with Home Assistant. And what I love is that Home Assistant will then... not that one. Not that one. This one? No, not that one. This one. Home Assistant then has a native integration with Companion, which means that anything that Companion integrates with, which is a very large variety of things, you can then pull all of those entities, and again, it takes an access token, so you need to have a special key, from Home Assistant. Home Assistant will generate that for you, but then you can create your own control for not only your global cache devices, which we've already talked about in a previous show, and Home Assistant. So when I'm sitting in the theater, which is the bonus room, and I want to control the lights in here, I have those things programmed into buttons. And so I'll just show you on the big screen here, Home Assistant. So BR is bonus room. So my lamps, I can just turn them on pretty easily. They're on a toggle. So they are on now. And I have set feedback to tell me green when the lamps are on, because when I'm out of this room and I'm downstairs or outside and I look at this, I want to know what's the report back. I don't do feedback based on steps. I do feedback based on is the entity in an on state. Okay, so that's live feedback. So I can turn those off and I can turn those on. Those are now off. I have a headphone amp for my theater system in case we want to watch not a kid-friendly movie and the kids are sleeping in the next rooms next door. We can put our headphones on. And, of course, I use my my trusty-dusty Audio-Technica M50S headphones. But I have recessed lighting in here as well, so I can turn that on and off. I can turn the sub on and off, which is on a smart switch. I have a bonus room temperature readout so that I know at all times, hey, how cool is it in here? The fan auto comes on through SmartThings at 80 degrees, and that's based on a sensor that's here near my computers. So that sensor is currently reading back that it's 78.4 degrees, which is nice to know. It's not a button, it's just feedback. And then there are these lights. There's like a little hallway that the door is at the end of the hallway. It comes into this room, and then the bonus room is there. So it's down there, and there's a recessed light that's on a motion sensor. So when you open the door and you walk in, the light comes on automatically, and then it turns off on its own. Well, sometimes when we're watching a show and we turn the lights off, I want that light off as well. And that's kind of like in a different section of the room. So here I can just touch it and turn it on or turn it off, and it works really well that way. So I like it, and now it won't turn off for some reason. But anyways, one thing that you might consider integrating onto this menu is a power cycle module button. And what that does is, I've noticed this with Global Cache, is every little while, every so often, you need to turn off the connections inside Companion and reconnect them. And that's what this function is right here, these little red sliders. Well, with let me do this on my phone so that you can see it happen. So sometimes Global Cache just needs to like turn it off and back on again, and you got to go into this page and swipe those. Well, there's also a way that you can toggle the power connections, and what you do is you set the press button on that to be turn off connections, and then the release command to turn on connections. So I'm going to do this here. I'm going to press the button. Okay, you notice that the connections turned off on the screen. I'm going to release, and they turn back on. They reconnect. That's all it takes. So if I need to power cycle those, I just press and release, boom, boom, done, and now all of those connections are working again. So it's a quick little like have you turned it off and back on again type of situation. I'm going to also show you now how to set that up for Home Assistant, because I'm going to add that to this page. It's going to be a power cycle module right there. So we're going to go buttons, and we are going to go back to page 1. Let's just take a quick look at this. It's a very simple setup. So we do our connection, we tell it enable no, and then re-enable on the release. So let's rebuild that. So here I'm going to create a button. This is the new version of Companion, by the way. If you notice it looks a little different, this was the recent update that they just let go like, I don't know, a couple of days ago. So under style, which I'm not thrilled about, we're going to say Home Assistant element name. Sorry, yeah, Home Assistant power cycle module. No, that's not right. We're crying out loud. Module power cycle. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. All right, so the text size needs to be, I think I'm running at 23 right now, and the text color should be white. Okay. Element name and button string. So this is Home Assistant module power cycle. Now we're going to go to step 1, and we're only going to create one step. We're going to go to internal, and we're going to go down to connection, enable or disable connection. All right, and we're going to put 2 of those in here because I want to put that on the release action as well. I'm going to say no for the first one, that's disconnect, and then reconnect on 2. And then I'm going to say Home Assistant is the connection that I want to use. The other thing is I want feedback. So on the internal, we're going to go to connection, check status. I want this to be just Home Assistant. It's currently connected. I don't necessarily want... oh, you know what? No, this is not the one that I want. Let's do this again. So, internal connection. When the collection... Why is it called collection, not connection? Anyway, here we go. So when the connection is disabled... that's the wrong one as well. Man, I thought I had this down. Maybe it's just variable check value. Check status. Can I just get rid of that? I guess I could just make this black. Okay, that's fine. So now for Home Assistant, if it's disabled, and we're going to go to Home Assistant now, if it's disabled, it would be gray. I think I want the background to actually be red so that I see that status. So now if I go here again and show you this, I hold that down. Okay, it turns red, and then I let it go. Ooh, that's cool. It does a little color dance and then boots back up. Let's watch that happen on the actual connection page. Hold it down, turned off, back on, power cycle. So Home Assistant, it reconnects with the API command. I'm sorry, with the API key, and that's an easy way to do that. And now it's on my phone. It looks like this on my phone, and I can easily power cycle those. If for some reason these are delayed or not working right, we can do that. The other thing that I might just change on that button, because I'm not thrilled with the way that it looks, is that I want the foreground color to remain white. Okay, always. So foreground always white. So now when we do this, the letters stay white, right? And then we release, power cycles, and we're back up. I actually quite like that little color dance that it does. I think that that's cool. Because it's the warning and the error. That will actually then, if there is an error, it will show up here on the module. So it'll kind of be a heads up. Maybe that's what I should do for this power module, is that instead of this one, I could add check status like this. All right, let's turn this one off. Let's change this guy to... Oh, shoot. But I need it for both. Yeah, I need it for both, and I can't do it that way. All right, so that's why we have it set this way. So let's enable. And that's just fine. It's not the end of the world. But I do want it to check both connection values. Cool. All right. You know what? Actually, that's not actually... No, this is internal when button is pushed. So that's not actually checking any value. So maybe check status for this one, and then duplicate and check status for this one. And then just turn this to black. Yeah. And turn this one to black. Okay. So now if I go back, let's go back to our screen and do power cycle. Okay, it's set to gray. We'll change that in a second. Then if I release it, done. Okay, cool. Like that. Let's go ahead and delete this one because it's not being used now. The background, foreground, let's say it needs to be bright red. I'm sorry, foreground needs to be white. Disabled needs to be red. Same here. Foreground needs to be white. Disabled needs to be red. All right, so now, again, hold it down. Power cycle is red. Release. And we're back up. Cool. All right. I like the way that looks. All right, so then the companion integration, with Home Assistant, for those of you who are still hanging on here, the companion integration works really well with Home Assistant because it allows you to, if I just go back to this Home Assistant button, it allows you to pick any entity that you want. Okay, set up. We go to Home Assistant, and then we can say, like, let's set the on-off state of a light. And by the way, know the difference between a light and a switch when you are doing this, because that's important. Because not all of your entities will show up here. And I say, like, attic. Okay, attic lights here. And I want the text to say attic lights. Okay. We can change, by the way, the text size, whatever you want. So now you make it a little bit bigger or whatever. Praise Hallelujah for adjustable text sizes. It used to be auto 7, 14, 21, 28. It was silly. Now we can change it to whatever size we want. Color, the alignment, you can, do whatever you like here. It's really intuitive. You can take away that little yellow banner at the top. Thank you, Companion, for updating that. So I recently did a firmware update, software update for Companion on the Companion Raspberry Pi, and it gave me all of these options, by the way. But here, you can change the way that things look, change the way the button looks, whatever you want. It's great. Canvas, top with the top bar. Remember that? There's the top bar with a border when pressed. What does that mean? Let's find that out. Or none. So follow the default is what I have. Show icon status. Yeah, there's some options here. We need to do a companion. That's what I'll do next week. We'll do a companion overview. Anyway, so this works great. And now we can click Home Assistant. And, one more thing about feedback here. So we want to say Home Assistant, the state of a light. Okay. So text and background. I don't like it that bright one. I want it more like this. Let's invert this and just see if I got nope. One more. Make sure the color is the same. Okay. So the attic lights are on right now. Give me the state of the attic lights. There you go. So now if I want to turn the attic lights on, did I set this to toggle? State toggle. All right. So now's the moment. If I want to turn on the attic lights, I click the button and it responds that the attic lights have been turned on. And then I click the button again and it responds that the attic lights have been turned off. So it's really easy. And the integration is fairly intuitive, like somebody's thought through the process. So to get started with Home Assistant, okay, the integration between SmartThings or Zigbee or Z-Wave seems to be very straightforward. And you'll notice here is here's an example of a device that kept falling off the network that needed a firmware update. These are Aeon sirens. I think that's how you say it. They're Z-Wave, but they needed a firmware update because they kept dying and disconnecting. They are now solely on the Home Assistant network, connected via Home Assistant, and they are working pretty well. The thing that you can do here, this is a cool thing with this system, is you can do something called a re-interview, which basically asks it to pull the data, and I may just have to put my foot in my mouth here. Start the re-interview process. And have I disconnected this one? Maybe I disconnected that one. Let's try this here, re-interview. Yes. It will ask the device for its node status. I must have disconnected that other one. It'll ask the device for its to pull all of its node status, and then it will give you back this readout as to, okay, what's its state, what's the firmware version. These, I had 3 of these, and all 3 of them are on different firmwares. Now they're all on the latest and greatest, which is amazing. So that one is good. Was it this one that wasn't connected? My upstairs? Nope, that one's working. So it's the living room one that's offline. And Typically, if it's plugged in and talking, you can hit the re-interview request and it will just pull it up for you. But this one, I think I've unplugged it. So they got to be on the latest firmware, and in order to do a firmware update, Home Assistant is the place to do that. You have to add them to the Home Assistant network and then do the firmware update. It will not push a firmware update from a device that it discovers on SmartThings. So that's why I'm kind of thinking SmartThings is on its way out for me, because although I have tons of automations in there, it really would not be, it would take me 1 hour a day for 2 weeks to bring over every room in this house to this system. The discovery process is very fast. It seems to be, they are using and updating the latest firmwares and all of that with Home Assistant, which makes it very responsive. It has no problem finding legacy Z-Wave products. So if you're using old systems or you have an old system and it's like, man, I really wish, it was better, or SmartThings was better. Home Assistant with a purchased antenna on a Raspberry Pi 4B may be the way to do it, because the web interface is just a website. It's just an IP address, and you can access it from any computer. You can set up a password, if you want. You can secure it. You can lock it down. But this system seems to be far more intuitive than what SmartThings currently or is probably ever going to be. So I'm thinking I'm going to start moving over to Home Assistant, and I'll tell you more about that while as I go along. But this seems to be kind of the next step in home automation for me, because I can bring all of the home automation stuff into here, and then I can unify it all in Companion. So Companion is going to sit at the top. It runs on a Raspberry Pi, so it never turns off. And then the modules connect, so Global Cache, Home Assistant, all those things will connect. And then I can build as many phone interface screens as I want. You can make them as big as you want, as small as you want. You'll notice on my where's that screen here? You'll notice on that module page that I just have a 3x4. You can have as many buttons as you want, but I like to have some surface area to actually touch on the phone. On an iPad it's a little big, but it's great for my kids because they can't miss. But on the phone, it's a big enough button. It's bigger than the app buttons. It's just a little bit bigger, so there's really no confusing what button it is that you're pressing. It's very simple to use, pretty responsive. I love the feedback option where it lights up the button green. It just works really responsively well. So as SmartThings go, I'm no longer tied down to the limitations of the SmartThings app. If you're finding that your devices are falling off the network, or they're not consistently turning on or off, they may need a firmware update. And in order to do that, you're going to need a product like Home Assistant. There are other ones out there, but like Home Assistant, Home Assistant's open source, so there's no licensing fees. It's just hardware purchases. Once you buy the Raspberry Pi, once you buy the antennas that you're going to need, and you plug them in, that's it. Like, you can start buying Z-Wave products, and there's no more reoccurring expenses until you burn out the products. And one product line that I really like, I don't get paid to say this, is Third Reality. Third Reality makes great Zigbee and Z-Wave products. They make the automated blinds that I have. They make a lot of the temperature sensors. I have one here. This bonus room temperature sensor, this is the one that was on that screen. This is the one that's 78.2 degrees right now. Just a little stick on, you stick it on. What I love about Third Reality products is they take standard batteries. Most Z-Wave products, when they first came out, took button batteries. I have hundreds of different types of button batteries all in a bag in my utility room. These are standard batteries you can buy off of Amazon. You can get rechargeables if you're so inclined. But these are great for 6 months or maybe a year, depends on how often you use them. But with Home Assistant, you can monitor all of that stuff too. So instead of guessing or navigating into SmartThings every time, you can just use Home Assistant to kind of monitor that stuff by going to Overview and then going to Maintenance And then, hey, this is the bonus room temperature sensor. So we're going to go down to second floor, bonus room, and then bonus room temperature sensor is at 100% right now. So that's the status of these batteries. It's great. It's so good. This is, by the way, this is also a humidity sensor. So, yeah, there's that as well. But I have it on here. It says Third Reality, TR. So that's what that means. Now, this one is connected to SmartThings. And if we click on that little this here, it says integration through SmartThings Tennessee Home. It's in the bonus room. It's the device name is temperature sensor, and that is the Third Reality version. So the device, I find them extremely consistent. They stay on the network. They don't. They haven't had a firmware update. So far so good. So if you're looking for, and of course the best part about it is they're pretty inexpensive. They're like $20 a sensor, and in the Z-Wave Zigbee world, that's pretty cheap. So if you need a multi-sensor, which is what that is, that's a humidity and temperature sensor. If you want an open and close sensor, okay, they have those. If you want a button, a remote control button, that reminds me. I have a Third Reality remote control studio button. Also, standard batteries in there. Okay, those are AAAs. It's just a button. Now, this thing actually has like double tap, triple tap. You can like set different things to do different things. Let's find out what that thing actually does, because that would be interesting to know. It's just a simple button. Ooh, yikes. Okay. So here, devices, bonus room. Sorry, I know you can't see this part. Bonus room, studio setup button. So this button has no actions assigned to it. I forgot all about this thing. That's so funny. Does it show up on the bonus room blinds, motion sensor, studio setup? That's what this is right here. 74%. Let's go to the device itself. Okay, here it is. If I click this button, does it? There, look. Oh, you can't see. I'm so sorry. So if I push this button, pushed. See, it got that information from SmartThings, but there's no actions assigned to it. If I double press, double, and if I triple, held. If I hold it down, held. Okay, cool. So you can create routines in here because this activity can be seen by Home Assistant. So if I didn't want to create the routine inside SmartThings, if I wanted to create a routine inside Home Assistant, I could do that. For example, if, this is going to be wild. All right, let's delete this button because I don't need the attic lights here. I wonder if I could build an action inside Companion based on information coming from SmartThings to Home Assistant. Ooh, that would turn on the TV with global cache. Let's go. All right, here we go. Let's try this out. This is just for fun, everybody, but this is going to be so nerdy if it works, delete. Oh, okay, I did it. All right, so we're going to click on this. We're going to say create a regular button. I'm going to say Home Assistant. Now, this is the tricky part. When we press a button, and I want this to be, is this called Studio? Okay, so it's not there. This is the tricky part with Companion and the Home Assistant. It's not exactly clear. What's it called? Let me go back here. It's not exactly clear how to set these things up. This is main, is what this is called. This device is main. Okay, so that's not it. So let's try this again. Was it called main? No. Local variables. 6 variables. When a sensor, input, select state, maybe. Light and switch. Let's just see all of these. Nope, it's not that one. All right, it's not these. All right. Let's do this instead. Curious. Oh, you know what? It might be seeing it as like a routine. Press if a group on-off state, maybe that. Maybe it's a scene. Maybe that's what it thinks it is. Let's see. Okay, so there's no entities there. This one. These are routines in the house. So it's not that one. Activate scene. It's not a group. Man, you would think it would be press button, right? But that's not what this is here. Perhaps that I need to studio setup is what it's called. What is this? Icon. Studio setup main. It's visible. Device area. Change the device area. Open the device settings. It's in the bonus room. All right. Details. Here are the latest events. Held, double pressed, pushed. Device info. Okay, that's the screen. Battery, firmware's up to date. Event, main. That's not helpful, right? I want to know what recreate entity IDs. There, event, bonus room, setup, main event. Okay. So that is the call service. Open a feature request. No. Execute a script. Maybe. Input select. Select. I've already checked that one. Does anybody know what the input Boolean state is? Boolean state? Or no entities listed. All right, so I can create a routine inside SmartThings and bring that over as a scene and then execute the scene. But what I wanted to think was, if I press the button here, would it, could I trigger a companion? See, I'm pushing it here. Could I trigger something inside of companion, which would be global cache? So then you could put this on the wall and just say one click is turn on Chromecast, or toggle Chromecast on, toggle it off. Oh man, because I would use that all the time. But the question is, how do I get it to see? Press this action. You would think it would be press button. Well, I'm going to have to think that through. Just because there's got to be a way for it to event types, device class button, friendly name, studio setup main. The reason it's called that is because it was going to be a button I was going to use to like turn on the lights, and I still could use that if this could work, because I could use it through Companion, but it's not showing up as a button, which is a bit of a problem. So like if I typed in button, press button. Now that's the one that we've already looked at. Entities. Can I do this? This. Show more? No, go back. This. Device. Could I copy this into here? Invalid expression. Probably because it's not like this. Anyway, I'm going to have to figure that out because that's cool. And that would be awesome. I would love to be able to, program this button to do specific things through Companion. And it's totally likely that it will work. It's just I've got to figure out exactly the way to word it so that when I select, you know what? I guess it's more like automation, right? Because I'm not building a button. That's not what I'm doing. So I'm trying to get this in Home Assistant. Oh, I see what I'm doing this backwards. I need Companion to. Okay, well, I'll figure that out in a second. Let me think it through logically. I was going about it the wrong way. I was creating a button, which you wouldn't create a button for a button. All right, so that was wasted. I recently learned that James Doohan has spent the most time in space of any person because someone snuck his ashes onto the International Space Station. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's just lovely. May he rest in peace. My Home Assistant is currently missing our local weather conditions. I had an AccuRite weather station up in the air for the last 10 years or so, and we've had such crazy weather lately that it just quit working. The batteries are fresh. There's no signal coming from it. The NMO, whatever that word is, has also seized up solid. So I got no wind speed measurements. Keyboard mashing intensifies. And a typo in my own comment. Perfectly timed. Yes, that was perfectly timed. Overall, so what are your thoughts on about this kind of solution versus an entirely cloud-based solution like an Apple HomeKit? Great question. And we'll land on this one here because I'm approaching 2 hours. Me personally, I like the ability to maintain my own system. So I don't like relying on a cloud-based system, for example, because I live out in the boondocks and I have Starlink, and it's been very consistent. But if I disconnect my house from the internet, I don't necessarily want to be completely hogtied to the commands going up to the cloud. With SmartThings, they do integrate cloud-based actions and whatever, but they also have a function to keep them local, meaning that the hardware will remember in memory the routines and execute them without internet access. However, when that device does not have internet access, it does not play nicely. Whereas from what I can tell here, this Home Assistant product will work without internet and in a power situation, which is, an isolated, power generator. That is another good reason why I might move over all of the devices to Home Assistant, because then it would be controlled locally. And we can get firmware updates online. You can enable cloud-based services with Home Assistant. So if you want to be able to access your Home Assistant from off-site and, you're away, you can definitely do that. Where are we here? Settings and Home Assistant Cloud. So you can get provides you a secure remote instance, while it also allows you to connect cloud-only services like Amazon Alexa and Google. So you can sign up. It looks like there is a monthly transaction that you may need to get. What is that service called? Home Assistant Cloud is a subscription-based with a free 1 month, no payment. Learn more about Home Assistant Cloud. Let's just go to pricing, because that's honestly what we want to know. We support 2 payment options, credit cards and PayPal. You can review your subscriptions here on this support page. In the US, the monthly subscription is $650, annual subscription is $65. This excludes sales tax. So for $65 a year, you can have a web-based service. It is kind of nice that SmartThings connects to a free web base. It's still currently free, and so I don't pay an annual subscription for that, and I can access it anywhere in the world. So that's kind of one of the pieces that's holding me back, to be honest with you, is that I want to be able to still, turn things off or necessarily turn them on while I'm away without a annual subscription. So there's the option there that perhaps you would incur a monthly expense of about $7 a month US to make that happen. But I don't know necessarily much about Apple's HomeKit and what prices what might be involved there. What's going on here? What might be involved there? But me personally, I think I like the idea. One thing I failed to mention here is that I find this system far more responsive in terms of things happening right away. I find it far more responsive than SmartThings. SmartThings takes a second, whereas this system seems to do it immediately. In relative terms, does things immediately. This plug is, I think it's a Zigbee plug, if I'm not mistaken. We can try and add it to Home Assistant. Do you want to do that while we are finishing up here? So if we jump over here, we say device, add a device, add a device, and then we say, is it Zigbee? I think it's Zigbee. Zigbee Home Automation. I'm sorry. Go back. Can we go back? Manage devices. Sorry, I'm moving too quick here. Add a device. Add a Zigbee device. Okay, so we're in that kind of mode now. I'm going to hold the reset button here until we start flashing. And not too sure if the Zigbee network is going to see it from up here because it's kind of far away. And I don't know how long I have to hold this button. So I might have to Google that. It's lit up blue. Oh, all right. Well, that was more than 10 seconds. So we are now red. And okay, it's flashing blue now. Maybe I should take it out. No. Oh. And it's solid red, and now it's off. Configuring a third reality device. Interview is complete. Wow. Man, that was fast. So this is now the, let's say, bonus room theater control. Theater button. And this will be in the bonus room. All right, your device is ready to use. Holy smokes, man. That was so fast. So, updates available. Yo, let's go. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is what I'm talking about, is that there are like unknown updates that SmartThings does not do that unless you add them to a Home Assistant system, you're never going to know. Now, the install process, I think, is a rewrite of the entire firmware from top to bottom. So check out that 1% done. This is going to take a few minutes. I'm going to put that there. And, Zigbee is a mesh network, and so is Z-Wave. So one device can talk to another, and, the chain of command. This device wasn't doing anything in SmartThings, but now I wonder if we add it and then go back to Companion, if it would show up as a button, right? So like action, press button, entity. Maybe I need to power cycle here. Do. Man, that's what I'm talking about, though. Like, the fact that I didn't know there was a firmware update available for this, and the only way I found out is by adding it to this network. And now, yeah, there's an update. So it really makes me wonder. Now, the button was working just fine, but it makes me wonder, like, what other functions have been enabled, and I have no idea because SmartThings doesn't update. It's really annoying. Doesn't do firmware updates. Oh, and by the way, you can set this just to like auto update devices if you want. That's in the IT world, that's a little dangerous, but you can, auto update things if you want. So I'm going to let this run. This is on 14%. I'm pretty excited about this. I'll report next week a little bit more about this, but we did talk about perhaps doing an overview of the new version of Companion, and so let's plan on that for next week, and I'll get a little bit better versed in Companion between now and then of all the updates that have happened, and then we'll walk through it together. So thanks for coming along, everybody. I got to call it quits here because I've been up here for 2 hours, and my wife probably wants some backup downstairs. So hopefully you're doing well. Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out. What a fun show. I had fun. I don't know if you did, but I love talking about this stuff. So we are, good stuff, good times. And we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully we'll do another show. Next week, I believe, is my last show for a couple of weeks because I leave on the 29th for camp. So on the 23rd, we'll do a show about Companion, and we'll do kind of a farewell. I'm still trying to figure out if there's a way that I could do a show from the road. Maybe I could try and record something Wednesday night and then just post it on Thursday if I'm not going to be able to do a live show, because I will be driving on Thursday during this hour of the 30th. So maybe I'll just post something like that, and we'll do that. But next week I'll be back. Please tune in. Let me know your thoughts on home automation, if this has been helpful, if it has not. If I was kind of too scatterbrained, then maybe tell me that, and I can try and be a little bit more concise another week or two, maybe sometime in August. But take care of yourselves, folks. Thank you so much for coming by. Really appreciate it, and hopefully you have enjoyed yourselves. And we'll see you guys next week, right here, same time, same place, 10 o'clock Central Time, right here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys in the next one.